I'm writing this because I still don't understand what happened to my roommate, and I need to get it out somewhere. This was 3 years ago, but I think about it almost every day. I've never posted about it online before. I'm not sure why I'm doing it now. Maybe because I saw something yesterday that brought it all back. Or maybe because I've just been carrying this alone for too long. My roommate's name was Eric. We weren't best friends or anything, just two guys who answered the same Craigslist ad for a 2-bedroom apartment in Portland, Oregon, near the Hawthorne district. He was 26. I was 24. He worked remotely for some tech company, doing data analysis or something. I worked at a brewery downtown. We got along fine. Watched basketball sometimes, split groceries, kept to ourselves mostly, normal roommate stuff. Eric was quiet, not in a creepy way, just reserved. He'd lived in Portland for about 2 years before I moved in. Didn't talk much about his life before that. Said he was from somewhere in the Midwest. Iowa, I think. But he didn't have much of an accent. He didn't have a lot of friends that I ever saw. No girlfriend. His parents called sometimes, and he'd take the calls in his room, with the door closed. I never thought much of it. The apartment was on the second floor of an old building. One of those early 1900s places with high ceilings and hardwood floors that creaked no matter how carefully you walked. Our windows faced the street, and you could hear everything. Cars, people arguing, the bus stopping on the corner. It wasn't quiet, but you got used to it. Everything was completely normal until about mid-October. I remember because the trees outside were just starting to turn, and it had been raining for 3 days straight. That heavy Portland rain, that just doesn't stop. I came home from a closing shift around 11:30 p.m. on a Thursday. Eric's door was closed, but I could see the light on underneath. His laptop was on the kitchen counter, which was unusual. He usually kept it in his room. There was a mug of tea next to it. Still warm. I figured he'd just stepped away. I went to bed. The next morning, Friday, I got up around 9. Eric's door was open. He wasn't inside. The bed was made, which was also unusual. Eric wasn't a messy guy, but he definitely wasn't the type to make his bed. His laptop was still on the counter. The tea mug was still there. Now, cold, with a film on top. I assumed he'd gone out early for some reason. Didn't think about it. When I got home that night, everything was exactly the same. Same laptop, same mug. Eric's door still open, bed still made. I texted him, "Hey man, you around?" No response. I checked his room. His phone charger was plugged in by his bed. His wallet was on his dresser, keys on the hook by the door, both his car key and the apartment key. That's when I started to feel something was off. I texted again. "Dude, are you okay? Your stuff is all here." Nothing. I called. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I tried again an hour later. Same thing. By Saturday morning, I was genuinely worried. I called his work. I didn't have a direct number for his manager or anything, but I found the main company line online. It was the weekend, so I just left a message saying I was his roommate and trying to reach him. I called his parents. I didn't have their number, but it was saved in the apartment landline caller ID from a few weeks back. A woman answered, his mom. I assume. "Hi, this is David. I'm Eric's roommate. I'm trying to reach him and..." "He's not here," she said. Her voice was flat, cold, almost. "I know, he hasn't been home since Thursday night, and his wallet and keys are still here. So I'm a little worried and... Eric is an adult. I'm sure he's fine." "Okay, but have you heard from him? Because if he wants to reach out, he will." And she hung up. That phone call bothered me more than I wanted to admit. It wasn't just that she didn't seem worried. It was the way she said it, like she was used to this, or like she knew something I didn't. I went into his room and really looked around. Everything seemed normal. Clothes in the closet, shoes lined up. Laptop charger, books, a couple of photos on the dresser. One of him as a kid, with a woman who I assumed was his mom. Another, of him and a dog. There was a notebook on his desk, the kind with a black and white speckled cover. I opened it. Most of it was work notes. Lists of numbers, code snippets, things I didn't understand. But toward the back, there were pages that didn't fit. They weren't dated. But the handwriting looked hurried. One page just said, "Not the same. Check the mirror. It's not the same." Another page, a few pages later, called again. Said my name wrong. She said my name wrong. And then, near the very end, if I'm right, I can't tell anyone. If I'm wrong, I'm losing my mind. Either way, I don't know what to do. I stood there in his room, holding that notebook, and I felt this creeping cold feeling in my stomach. I didn't know what any of it meant, but it felt personal, like I was reading something I shouldn't be. I took a picture of those pages with my phone. I don't know why. I just felt like I needed to. By Sunday, I filed a missing person report. The police came to the apartment Monday afternoon. 2 officers, both seeming annoyed to be there. They looked around Eric's room, asked me basic questions. When was the last time I saw him? Did he seem upset? Any drug use, mental health issues, relationship problems? I showed them the notebook. The older cop, a guy with graying hair and a tired expression, flipped through it and handed it back. "People write all kinds of things," he said. "Doesn't mean much. But his wallet and keys are here," I said. "He didn't just leave." "Sometimes people want to disappear," the younger cop said, "especially if they're going through something." They took a report, said they'd follow up. I never heard from them again. I tried to go back to normal. I went to work. I came home, but the apartment felt different. I started keeping Eric's door closed because it felt wrong to see it open and empty. About a week and a half after he disappeared, I was in the kitchen making coffee before my shift. It was early, maybe 6:30 a.m., still dark outside. I heard a sound from Eric's room. A single creak, like someone taking a step. I froze. The apartment was old. It made noise all the time, but this was different. This was the specific creak of the floorboard, right inside Eric's doorway. I knew, because I stepped on it 1,000 times. I stood there, listening, nothing else. I walked over and opened the door. The room was empty, exactly as I'd left it, but the window was open, just an inch or two, enough to let in the cold air. I hadn't opened that window. I was sure of it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Eric had written. Check the mirror. I got up, went into the bathroom, and just looked at myself. I don't know what I was expecting to see. I looked like I always looked, tired, unshaved, normal. But then I remembered. Eric had a mirror in his room, a small one, attached to the inside of his closet door. I went back in. I opened the closet and looked at the mirror. My reflection stared back. Nothing unusual. But then I noticed something I hadn't before. There was writing on the mirror, faint. In dry erase marker, maybe, or soap, like someone had written something and then tried to wipe it away. But you could still see the residue if the light hit it right. I turned on my phone's flashlight and angled it. The words were barely visible. Not me. I moved out 2 weeks later. Broke the lease, paid the penalty, didn't care. I told the landlord Eric had disappeared, and I didn't feel safe staying there alone. He was annoyed, but didn't fight it. I never found out what happened to Eric. The case went cold. His parents never filed any additional reports, never followed up. I tried reaching out to his work, but they wouldn't tell me anything, due to privacy policies. His social media went silent. His phone stopped ringing and started going straight to voicemail. It's like he just stopped existing. I still have the pictures I took of his notebook on my phone. I've read them 100 times, trying to make sense of it. She said my name wrong. What does that even mean? Here's the thing. I haven't told anyone. About 6 months after Eric disappeared, I was at a bar in Southeast Portland with some coworkers. We were sitting outside, and I saw someone walk past on the sidewalk. It was Eric. I'm sure of it. Same height, same build, same walk. He was wearing a jacket I recognized, a gray North Face one he used to wear all the time. I jumped up and called out, "Eric." He stopped, turned around, looked right at me, and I swear to God, his face was right, his hair was right, everything was right. But something in his expression was wrong, like he didn't recognize me, or like he was trying to remember who I was. He stared at me for 3, maybe 4 seconds. Then he turned and kept walking. I ran after him, but by the time I got to the corner, he was gone. Just gone. I looked down every side street, checked his shops. Nothing. I don't know what I saw that night. I don't know what happened to Eric, or what he'd figured out, or what he was afraid of. But I think about that mirror every day. Not me. What if he was right? What if the person I saw that night really was Eric, but the Eric who disappeared wasn't? I know how that sounds. I know, but I can't shake it. And last night, the reason I'm writing this now, I got a message on Facebook from an account with no profile picture and a name I didn't recognize. Just a string of numbers, the message said. "David, I'm sorry I left without saying anything. I'm okay. Please don't look for me." It came from an account created 3 days ago. I don't know if it's really him. I don't know if I want to know. This happened last year, and I still don't feel comfortable talking about it. I'm only writing this now because I moved to a different city entirely. And even then, I had to sit with this for 20 minutes before I could start typing. I don't know what I'm looking for by sharing this. Maybe just to see if anyone else has experienced something like it. Maybe just to get it out of my head. My girlfriend Maya disappeared in our apartment. Not from it, in it. And I know how that sounds, but I need you to understand. I'm not talking about anything supernatural. I'm talking about something worse. Something I still don't have an explanation for. We moved into the apartment in March of last year. It was in Sacramento, in Midtown. One of those older buildings from the 1940s that had been renovated, but still kept some of the original character. Hardwood floors, crown molding, big windows. It was a 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor. The rent was surprisingly reasonable for the area, and the landlord, an older guy named Ron, who owned a few properties in the neighborhood, seemed decent enough. The layout was a little odd, but we didn't think much of it at first. When you walked in the front door, there was a narrow entryway that turned left into the living room. The kitchen was off to the right, kind of tucked away. The bedroom was at the far end of the apartment, past the living room, and the bathroom was accessed through a small hallway next to the kitchen. But here's the thing. There was a closet in that hallway. A storage closet, Ron said, pretty deep, with built-in shelves, and next to it, there was a door, a locked door. Ron told us it was the old access to the building's attic space. Sealed off years ago for safety reasons. He said some of the apartments still had the doors, but they didn't lead anywhere anymore. He didn't have a key. Said if we really wanted it opened, he could get someone out there. But it wasn't necessary. We didn't care. It was just a door. We figured we'd use it to hang coats or something. The first couple of months were completely normal. We settled in. Maya worked from home as a graphic designer, and I was doing freelance writing. So We were both around a lot. We liked the place. The neighbors were quiet. The street had good coffee shops. It felt like we'd made a good choice. Maya did mention, maybe a month in, that she sometimes felt like the apartment was bigger than it looked from the outside. Like the hallway to the bathroom stretched longer than it should. I laughed it off. Old buildings are like that. Weird proportions. Things that don't quite line up. I didn't think anything of it. But then, I started noticing it too. It wasn't dramatic. Just small things. I'd be walking from the living room to the bedroom, and it felt like it took more steps than I remembered. Or I'd be in the kitchen and hear Maya in the bedroom, but her voice sounded farther away than it should have. One night in May, I got up to use the bathroom around 2 a.m. The apartment was dark, except for the street lights coming through the living room window. I walked down the hallway toward the bathroom, and I had this strange moment of disorientation, like I'd taken a wrong turn, even though the hallway was straight. When I came out of the bathroom, I stood there for a second, just looking down the hall toward the living room. It felt longer. I know that sounds insane, but I stood there staring, trying to figure out if the perspective was playing tricks on me. Maya's voice came from the bedroom. "Babe, you okay?" I went back to bed. Didn't mention it. Things stayed quiet until late June. Maya had been working on a big project for a client, pulling long hours. I'd been busy too, on deadline for a series of articles. We were both stressed, not sleeping great, spending a lot of time in the apartment. On June 23rd, I remember the date because I checked later. Maya said she was going to take a break and grab something from the storage closet. We kept extra office supplies in there, and she needed a new sketchbook. I was in the living room, on my laptop. I heard her walk down the hallway. Heard the closet door open. Then I heard her say, "Huh, just that. Huh." I didn't think much of it. I kept typing. A couple of minutes passed, maybe 5. I realized I hadn't heard the closet door close. "Maya," I called out. No response. I got up and walked to the hallway. The closet door was open. The light was on inside. We'd installed a little battery-powered puck light on the top shelf. Maya wasn't there. I looked inside. Shelves with boxes, supplies, winter coats, normal. But no Maya. "Maya!" I checked the bathroom. Not there. Checked the bedroom. Not there. I went back to the living room, thinking maybe she'd walked past me, and I hadn't noticed. But that didn't make sense. I would seen her. I checked the kitchen, the bedroom again. I opened the front door and looked out into the hallway of the building. Nothing. I called her phone. I heard it ringing. In the apartment, I followed the sound. It was coming from the hallway, from inside the storage closet. Her phone was on the floor near the back wall, still ringing. The screen lit up with my name. I picked it up, stared at it. "Maya," I called out, louder this time. Nothing. I went back through the entire apartment, checked every room, every closet, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. I checked the windows, all closed and locked from the inside. I checked the front door, locked, chain still on. She was gone. I called her phone again from mine. It rang in my hand, the one I just picked up from the closet. I tried texting her, thinking maybe she had another device somehow. No response. I sat on the couch, trying to think logically. She had to have left the apartment. Maybe I'd zoned out and didn't notice. Maybe she went out the front door and I just didn't hear it. But her phone was in the closet. I grabbed my keys and went downstairs, checked the street, walked around the block, checked the coffee shop we liked, the corner store. Nothing. I came back up and called her best friend, Jen. "Hey, have you heard from Maya in the last hour?" "No." "Why? Is everything okay?" I just I can't find her. She was here, and now she's not. What do you mean you can't find her? I didn't know how to explain it. I told Jen I'd call her back. By 9 p.m., I filed a missing person report. The police came around 10:30. 2 officers, a man and a woman. They seemed professional, but skeptical. They asked the same questions everyone asks. When did you last see her? What was she wearing? Did you have a fight? Any reason she'd leave? I explained everything. They looked around the apartment, checked the windows, the doors, found everything locked. The male officer stood in the hallway, looking at the storage closet. And you said her phone was in here? Yeah, on the floor. He looked at me, and she didn't take it with her when she left. She didn't leave. I was in the living room. I would have seen her. Maybe you stepped out. Used the bathroom, got distracted. I didn't. They took a report, said they'd follow up. Told me to call if I heard from her. After they left, I sat in the living room with all the lights on, staring at the hallway. I didn't sleep that night, around 4 a.m. I got up and walked to the storage closet again. I stood in the doorway, looking at the shelves. The back wall was white, old drywall that had been painted over a few times. There was a small crack running vertically near the left side. I stepped inside and knocked on the wall. Solid. I don't know what I was expecting. I was about to leave when I noticed something. The door that was next to the closet, the locked attic access door, was slightly ajar. Not open, just not flush with the frame, like it had been closed but hadn't latched. I stared at it. I'd never seen it anything but completely shut. I reached out and pushed it gently. It opened. There was no attic behind it. It was a hallway. Narrow, maybe 3 feet wide, with the same hardwood floor as the rest of the apartment. It stretched back about 15 feet and ended at another door. The walls were bare drywall. There was a single light bulb overhead. Already on, dim yellowish. I stood there, frozen. This wasn't possible. The building's layout didn't allow for this. Our apartment was on the corner. There was nothing behind that wall, except the exterior of the building. I pulled out my phone, turned on the flashlight. Stepped inside. The air smelled stale, dusty. The floor creaked under my feet, the same creak as the rest of the apartment, but louder. I walked to the door at the end. It was old. Same style as the front door to our apartment. It had a handle, not a knob. I tried it. Locked, I knocked. Maya? No answer. I put my ear to the door. Listened. Nothing. I went back out into the apartment and called the landlord. It was almost 5 a.m., but I didn't care. Ron answered on the 4th ring, groggy. Hello? Ron, it's Daniel from Unit 12. I need to ask you about the door in the hallway, the attic access. Silence. Ron? What about it? It's open. There's a hallway behind it. Another pause. Longer this time. That's not possible, he said. That door's been sealed for years. I'm looking at it right now. It's open. There's a hallway and another door. I don't know what you're talking about. Can you come over? Please. My girlfriend is missing and I think. Missing? She disappeared last night from inside the apartment. And now this door is open and I don't know what. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Ron showed up at 5:40 a.m. He looked old and tired, wearing a jacket over pajama pants. He stood in the hallway, staring at the open door. I don't understand, he said quietly. Have you ever seen this before? No. No. He stepped closer, looking into the hallway behind the door. This shouldn't be here. What do you mean? There's no space for this. The building doesn't make sense. He walked into the hallway, slowly, like he was afraid the floor might give out. I followed. We stood in front of the door at the end. Do you have a key? I asked. He shook his head. I don't even know what this is. He tried the handle. Locked. We need to open it, I said. He looked at me. I'll call someone. A locksmith came at 8 a.m. Ron paid him extra to come on short notice. The guy looked annoyed until he saw the hallway. Then he just looked confused. It took him 15 minutes to get the door open. When it swung inward, we all stood there, staring. It was a room, maybe 10 by 10 feet, empty, bare walls, bare floor, a single window on the far wall, covered with old yellowed blinds, no furniture, no Maya. But on the floor, in the center of the room, was her jacket, the one she'd been wearing the day before. The police came back, different officers this time. They took the jacket, asked more questions, took photos of the hallway and the room. They seemed as confused as we were. One of them asked Ron, "How long has this space been here?" "I don't know," Ron said. "I've owned this building for 12 years. I've never seen it." They searched the room, checked the walls, the floor, the window. The window was painted shut, hadn't been opened in years, maybe decades. There was no other way out. Maya's parents drove up from LA 2 days later. I had to explain everything to them. They didn't understand. I didn't understand. The police investigated for weeks. Checked security footage from nearby buildings, interviewed neighbors, tracked her phone records and bank accounts. Nothing, no activity, no sightings. She was just gone. I moved out in August. Couldn't stay there. Ron let me out of the lease without penalty. I think he was relieved. Before I left, I asked him what he was going to do with the room. "I'm sealing it back up," he said. "I don't want anyone else finding it." "Do you know what it was?" He shook his head. I looked at the building plans, original blueprints from 1947. That space isn't on them. It's not supposed to exist. I'm in Oakland now. I don't go back to Sacramento. I don't talk to Ron. But I looked up the building a few weeks ago. Out of morbid curiosity, I guess. Someone new is living in Unit 12. A couple, according to the rental listing photos I found online. I zoomed in on one of the photos. It was taken from the hallway, showing the bathroom and the storage closet. The door next to the closet, the attic access door, was closed. But in the photo, just barely visible along the bottom edge of the door, there was light. Coming from underneath it, I didn't think much of it at first, but looking back now, it all feels planned. I'm posting this because I don't know what else to do. The police have been useless. My friends think I'm paranoid, but I know what I saw. And I know what happened wasn't random. My best friend's name was Sarah. We met freshman year at Arizona State and stayed close after graduation. We both ended up in Phoenix, her working as a physical therapist, me in marketing. We lived about 15 minutes apart and saw each other at least twice a week. Gym sessions, dinner, weekend hikes, normal stuff. This all started around February of last year, maybe earlier. But that's when I first noticed something was off. Sarah and I had a routine, Tuesday and Thursday mornings. We'd meet at an LA Fitness near her apartment in Tempe, around 6:30 a.m. She was always early. I was always 5 minutes late. We'd do cardio, sometimes a class, then get coffee after at the Dutch Bros across the parking lot. On a Thursday in mid-February, I want to say it was the 16th, we were leaving the gym around 8 a.m. Sarah stopped in the doorway and kind of looked out at the parking lot. "What?" I asked. "Nothing. Just that car was here when I got here." She pointed to a dark blue sedan, maybe a Honda Civic, parked a few rows over, tinted windows. Nothing remarkable. "So," I said, "I got here at 6:15. It's been running the whole time." I looked. The car was idling. I could see the exhaust. "Maybe someone's waiting for someone," I said. Sarah shrugged. Yeah, probably. We got coffee and went our separate ways. I didn't think about it again. A week later, Sarah texted me late at night, around 11:40 p.m. Sarah, you ever feel like someone's following you? Me, what? No, why? Sarah, itty, probably nothing. Me, did something happen? Sarah, just been seeing the same car a lot lately. That blue one from the gym? Me, are you serious? Sarah, yeah, saw it outside my complex yesterday and today at the grocery store. Me, did you see the driver? Sarah, no. Windows are too dark. Me, you should report it. Sarah. Say what? I keep seeing a blue car? Well, they'd think I'm crazy. Me, maybe take a pic of the license plate if you see it again. Sarah. Yeah, maybe. She sent a shrugging emoji and changed the subject. I didn't push it. I figured she was stressed. Her job had been intense lately. Lots of difficult patients. I thought maybe she was just noticing a car that happened to be around. But I also felt a little uneasy. 2 weeks went by. We kept up our gym routine. Everything seemed normal. Sarah didn't mention the car again, and I didn't bring it up. Then, on March 9th, we were supposed to meet for dinner at this Thai place we liked in downtown Tempe. She texted me at 6:50 p.m. Sarah, running late. Be there in 20. I got there first, grabbed a table, ordered an appetizer. 7:15 came and went. No Sarah. I texted her. Me, you close. No response. 7:30. Still nothing. I called. It rang twice and went to voicemail. At 7:45, I paid for the appetizer and left. I tried calling again from my car. Same thing. Voicemail. I drove to her apartment. It was only 10 minutes away. Her car was in the parking lot. An older white Toyota Corolla. I parked next to it and looked inside. Nothing unusual. Empty coffee cup in the cup holder. Gym bag in the back seat. I went up to her unit. Second floor, number 2038. Knocked. No answer. I called again. I could hear her phone ringing inside. I didn't want to overreact. I thought maybe she'd gone for a walk, left her phone behind, or fallen asleep. She worked early mornings. It wasn't impossible. I texted her roommate, Becca. Me? Hey, is Sarah home? We were supposed to meet for dinner, and she's not answering. Becca replied 15 minutes later. Becca, no, I'm out of town for the weekend. Haven't talked to her since yesterday. Me, her car's here, but she's not answering the door. Becca, that's weird. Maybe she went somewhere with someone? Me, maybe. Let me know if you hear from her. I sat in my car for another 20 minutes, staring at her apartment door. Finally, I went home. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I went back. Her car was still there. I knocked again. No answer. I called her work. The receptionist said she'd called in sick that morning, but Sarah hadn't called me, hadn't texted. I tried her phone again. This time, it didn't ring. Just went straight to voicemail, like it had been turned off. That's when I called the police. They sent an officer out around 2 p.m. I met him at her apartment. He knocked, announced himself. Waited, no response. He asked if I had a key. I didn't. He called the landlord. It took an hour for the landlord to show up. An older guy, annoyed at being bothered on a Saturday. He unlocked the door. The apartment was quiet, clean, normal. Sarah's phone was on the kitchen counter, plugged into a charger. Her purse was on the couch, wallet inside. ID and credit card still there. Keys on a hook by the door. Her bedroom looked untouched. Bed made, closet organized. The officer asked me the usual questions. When did you last see her? Did she seem upset? Any relationship problems? Mental health issues? History of running off? No. He took a report, said they'd follow up. I asked what I was supposed to do. He said, most people come back on their own. I stayed at her apartment for a while after he left, just looking around. I didn't know what I was looking for. I opened her laptop. It was unlocked. She always left it that way. I checked her email, her messages. Felt like an invasive asshole the whole time. But I didn't care. Nothing unusual. Work emails, a couple of unread promotional messages, a text thread with her mom about visiting next month. But then, I noticed something. Her Instagram. She'd posted a story the day before, a picture of her coffee from the morning. I checked the timestamp. Posted at 9:47 a.m., but when I opened her account settings and looked at her login activity, there was another login after that at 11:23 p.m. from a device listed as iPhone Phoenix AZ Keys. Sarah had an iPhone, but this was listed separately from her usual device. Someone else had logged into her account. I screenshotted it and sent it to the officer who'd taken the report. He replied 3 hours later, saying he'd pass it along to the detective assigned to the case. I didn't hear anything for 2 days. On March 12th, I got a call from a Detective Brennan. He asked if I could come in and answer some more questions. I went in that afternoon. He was in his 40s, balding, tired-looking. He asked me the same questions the officer had asked. I told him everything, including the Instagram login. "We're looking into it," he said. "But it's possible she logged in herself from a different device." "She didn't have another device," I said. "You sure?" "Yes." He made a note, asked if Sarah had mentioned anyone bothering her, following her, anything like that. I told him about the blue car. He looked up. "What blue car?" I explained. "The gym, the parking lot." Sarah's texts. "Did she get a license plate number?" "No." "Description of the driver?" She never saw them. The windows were tinted. He wrote it down. But I could tell. He didn't think it meant much. A week passed. Then 2. No sign of Sarah. No activity on her credit cards. No phone activity. Nothing. Her family came into town. Her mom was a wreck. I talked to them. Told them everything I knew. They hired a private investigator. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went back to the gym. Walked around the parking lot, looking for the blue car. Never saw it. I checked Sarah's Instagram every day. No new logins. The account stayed dormant. But then, I started noticing something else. I started seeing a blue sedan around my neighborhood. The first time, I was leaving my apartment complex in central Phoenix around 8 a.m. on a Wednesday. I was getting into my car, and I saw it, parked across the street, dark blue, Honda Civic, tinted windows. I stared at it. It didn't move. I got in my car and left. When I looked in my rearview mirror, it was still there. I thought maybe I was losing it, seeing patterns that weren't there. But 2 days later, I saw it again. Parked outside the Starbucks I went to every morning. Same car, same tinted windows. I walked up to it. My heart was pounding. The car was empty. I looked at the license plate, Arizona plate. I took a picture and sent it to Detective Brennan. He called me that night. "We ran the plate," he said. "Comes back to a rental company, Enterprise. Rented 3 months ago under a fake name and fake credit card. Company reported it stolen 2 weeks ago." "What does that mean?" "Means someone's using it off the books. We've got a bolo out for it, but it's probably been ditched by now." It was outside my coffee shop this morning. Silence. "Are you sure it's the same car?" "Yes." "Did you see anyone inside?" "No." Another pause. "I'll send a unit by your place tonight. Keep your doors locked. Let me know if you see it again." I didn't see the car again after that. But other things started happening. Small things. I got a Facebook friend request from a profile with no picture and a random name. I declined it. The next day, I got another one. Declined again. Then my Instagram got a new follower, another blank profile. No posts, no followers, just there. I made my account private, blocked the profile. Then I started getting calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I'd answer, and no one would say anything, just silence. Then they'd hang up. I blocked the numbers. New ones would call. In early May, I got a message on Facebook from an account I didn't recognize. It said, "She shouldn't have noticed." That's it. Nothing else. I screenshotted it and sent it to Brennan, reported the account. Facebook took it down within a day, but I never found out who sent it. Brennan said they were investigating, but I could tell they didn't have much to go on. Sarah's case went cold. Her family still calls me sometimes. I don't know what to tell them. It's been over a year now. I moved to a different apartment, changed my number, locked down all my social media. I don't go to that gym anymore. I don't go to that coffee shop. But 2 weeks ago, I was getting groceries at a Safeway near my new place. I was loading bags into my car. When I saw it, a dark blue Honda Civic, parked 3 spaces down, tinted windows, engine running. I stood there, frozen, staring at it, and then, slowly, the driver's side window rolled down. Just an inch, maybe 2. I couldn't see inside. It was too dark. But I knew someone was looking at me. I got in my car, locked the doors, started the engine. When I looked up, the blue car was gone. I don't know what happened to Sarah, but I think I know why. And I think whoever took her is still out there. I think they're still watching. And I don't think they're done.